If you're into Spec but don't like religion and politics in your comics, you definitely want to stay away from the comic that I'm about to tell you about. If you want to know the details, stay tuned to the video. By now, many of you have probably already heard that a person has purchased the library for Atlas Comics and intends to take that source material and convert it into comic book movies. The plan at present is to go into production around 2020 and then to release a movie in 2021 and then one movie every year after that. So when this news first broke a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people, I think, started to look at Atlas Comics. And I don't know that people really paid a whole lot of attention to Atlas Comics prior to this announcement. One thing that I have thought about is that there is a general lack of coverage of the Atlas Comics characters. Unlike those of Marvel and DC that have been debated and discussed and bantered about on YouTube and other forms of social media, I don't know that the characters that are contained in Atlas Comics have received that level of scrutiny. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to create this video. I know a lot of people have either bought the Atlas Comics books or are planning to buy Atlas Comics because of the fact that these things can be made into movies the same way that, the MCU is coming along. And as a result of that, all of these books that are used as source material are starting to go up in value. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with buying these books in advance, buying them before they start to go up, especially if you have some interest in these characters. But as I mentioned, I don't think that these characters have been scrutinized all that much. And so after I picked up my copies, I decided to actually read them because I was curious as to what these stories and what these characters were all about. And so I started reading them and I read Destructor. That was one of the first ones. And then I read Tiger Man. And then I turned my attention to the book at hand, Phoenix. This is actually a book that I picked up originally back when I was a preteen, staying with my grandmother during the summers out in a place called Roseville, Michigan. And so I have actually held this book in my hands a couple of times before I actually recently picked it up. But I don't know that I actually read it back then. I probably did, but I don't remember it. And when I read it this time, there were some things that struck me. And as they landed upon me, I began immediately reflecting upon some of the videos that I've created recently about politics and social justice embedded into comics. And I started to think about all the comments that people left on those videos. And a lot of them were very constructive comments. I think I am very proud of the type of discussions that have been created on this channel and my ability to learn a little bit from you guys. And one of the things that I heard loud and clear from several people was this idea that people don't necessarily mind social justice or politics or even religion for that matter in a comic. It's the degree at which those topics are covered and whether that is the primary focus of the book or whether it is something in the backdrop. And I think that that's a very important distinction that I don't know that I fully appreciated prior to these recent videos that I had created. But it's in that spirit that I wanted to raise some awareness around this book in particular, this Phoenix number 1 through 4. I have not read all 4. I've read 1, 2, and part of 3, but I wanted to kind of bring it to everyone's attention that there are definitely some religious imageries pulled forward in this book. It's very clear that the writer was probably a Sunday school guy. He or she, I can't remember because I don't remember who the writer was definitely pulling some source material from the Bible. There is no doubt about that. At various points, the main character, who is an astronaut, calls himself a god. At one point, he actually walks on water and he is observed by people walking on water. At another point, he literally parts the seas. And he parts the seas so that the people that were in danger could walk on land and reach the shore. And as he did this, his pursuers, who were actually in spacecrafts, got out of their spacecraft to walk on the land to attack him, only to be drowned in the water. And as the story goes on, he decides that it is his job, his responsibility to basically save man. And he can fly. I don't, name Phoenix in the wing on the front cover. He actually flies or hovers. And at one point, there is some very strong religious symbols in which he is essentially crucified, if you will, hanging on a cross. And it's a very, very interesting comic. I actually enjoyed the comic. I did not mind the religious tone and theme to it. But that's also maybe because of my upbringing that it really didn't bother me. But again, if you don't like religion or politics or social justice in your comics, this might not be the comic that you want to check out. And again, I'm doing this because of the fact that I don't think that there's a whole lot of scrutiny of these types of books. And I've read a couple of them. I've read Phoenix, I've read Tiger Man, and I've read Destructor. And I honestly haven't seen that same type of tone in those other books. This is the only one that I've seen it in. So again, just wanted to bring it to people's attention so that, if you decide to buy the book, you are buying it knowing exactly what's inside of it. As always, guys, if you need to reach me, feel free to do so at Regie Collects on Instagram and RegieCollects@gmail.com. Take care.